Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Kios, job coach and agency linkage specialist from Yosemite Monarch Charter School, and you're listening to Your Transition Podcast. Today, Blake and myself, we are excited to share some more resources with you. We also have a very special guest today, a guest we've never had on our show. How do you feel, Blake, about our February podcast today? How do you feel?
I feel great, Jonathan. I'm looking forward to hearing from our guest. Fun fact for everybody listening: this is actually our very first time meeting our guest as well. So it's going to be really cool. It's going to be very fun. Should be very exciting.
I feel like we should just tell the audience who will be joining us today. Are you okay with that? I know there's a lot of suspense and anticipation. Students listening are biting their fingernails and tapping their tables. How do you feel about that?
Okay, we can break code for this one time, and I suppose we could share. So could I get a drum roll, please, then? So today we'll be interviewing Dr. Mitch Casados, our very own Central Valley psychologist.
Hurrah! Crowd goes wild, right? This is so exciting, though. I can't wait for that portion of our podcast today. However, before we jump into that, we have some just important reminders to our listeners. We want to remind you to check out our podcast survey. We want to hear from our students, our staff, our families, our administrators, etc. We want you to be involved. Link will be in the description. So this is just where you get to put what you like, what you don't like, what would help, because this really isn't Blake or my podcast. This is your podcast. Also, save the date, Career Fair, February 22nd through the 23rd. All are welcome. That's correct. All are welcome to come. We're super excited about the opportunity for our students to connect, to hear from great speakers. We have a lot of cool stuff ready to go, just kind of waiting, so to speak, for you guys to take advantage of. So details can be found in the weekly updates or on our Central Valley Facebook page under events. Also, feel free to reach out to Eva Marie or Elizabeth Lakey if you have any questions about that. Okay, lastly, we are super excited to share to our alumni who are listening. We have an alumni wall in our Fresno Lending Library. So stop in, check it out.
Awesome. We got so many exciting events and offerings that are coming up for our students and our alumni. And it's truly what we're here for, to serve you, our students, our listeners, our families. And so with that, I do want to jump into our tips of the month for all of you guys. And this month, we're taking a look at the job hunt and job hunt skills to focus your searching. What do you have for us today on that, Jonathan?
I thought you would never ask. I know some of you are thinking, that dreaded job search. It's a lot of work. I think of the times in my life where I was searching for a job. Thank God those days are over. And I was searching for a job, and it was just so much work. I have just news for our listeners. It doesn't have to be a dreaded job. We want to set you up for success. So we want to give you some tips today. And these tips happen to come from a website called Indeed. And so Indeed is kind of like a job search engine, if you will. And so I came across this and we wanted to share because we thought that they were just great tips. Okay, the first tip is know your goals. Before you even search for that job, you've got to know your goals. You got to identify what type of career you want. This is particularly important for people entering the workforce for the first time or changing careers. So get recommendations from family, instructors, your career coach or job coach if you have one, and former coworkers. So, but that's the first one, is knowing your career goals. Got to know them before you can start searching, right? You got to know what you're looking for before you can go out on that search. And the thing is about your instructors, your job coaches, your family, your friends, they will be able to give you feedback as to where you can start in that entry level. So don't think, okay, I want to be a computer engineer, I need to look for computer engineering jobs. They'll be able to guide you in a place. Maybe it's starting off in a mail room for a computer tech company. Yeah, really use those resources at your fingertips. Okay, plan ahead. That's the second tip. Planning is key. You want to organize yourself and your schedule for searching for jobs, and so that you're efficient. Okay, so plan ahead. Let's say you're looking for a summer job. Maybe what you can start, 3 months before summer, or you can even start now, and you can say, you know what, from 8 to 10 a.m. every day, I have this time to plan for my job search and to look for jobs. So I'm just not going any, mini, miny, mo, but I'm actually planning my search. I have time carved out for it. Okay, here's the other part of the job search that's super important, and that is getting resume and cover letter help. I offer office hours, which are available. You can take a look at those. They're on Thursdays. And so you could drop in, or you could talk to an instructor and they could get you in contact with me and we could set up a one-on-one. But getting that resume and cover letter help. Ask a friend, ask a family member, ask a coworker, ask someone on your team to proofread that resume and that cover letter for errors. Tell them to pick it apart. And don't be insulted, because remember, it's all for your best. They're going to see things that sometimes you won't see yourself, as well as offer advice. Many of your teachers, many of our coaches, they know exactly what those employers are looking for. So remember, it's always for your best. So use the resources, get that resume and get that cover letter going. And then one other note I want to make on the resume and cover letter is, while you're going over that with your job coach or your instructor, more than likely they're going to really work with you so that your resume and cover letter fit with the job that you're searching for. So, and don't be afraid of, hey, don't be afraid of I don't have any experience. I've only babysat. There are ways. We look for opportunities. There are ways. When I worked at the Job Corps program, we would put things like volunteer work down. Sometimes we'd have students who, they never had a job, but maybe they babysat. We would put that as a volunteer experience. Or another thing we would do too is maybe sometimes they helped out with a school club or something. We would include that. So a resume is for all different types of experience. Okay, moving along. Number 4, use all job search resources. There's a lot of resources out there. Use them. Number 5, customize your resume. And we kind of talked a little bit about that. It needs to be for the job you are applying for. Case in point. So if I'm applying for a job, again, back to my mailroom for a computer tech company. My end goal is computer engineering. Maybe I would put on there a club, a robotics club that I participated in, or a robotics competition. And then maybe I may put something in there, maybe a family friend, I helped them one time organizing some mail. I would also include that. So what you're doing is you're tailoring it to the position that you are applying for. Research the company. Number 6. I cannot stress how important it is for our students, our listeners out there to research the company, okay? This isn't just a job that you're applying for, but you know what? I'm interested in working for your company. You should know the mission. You should now know their core values. You should also know what it is that they're looking for. You should know that job description and their mission better than the person who's interviewing you. And I know that sounds over the top, right, Blake? But it really is important. It shows interest. Hey, they're interested in this company. They're just not looking for a job to check in and check out. They're interested in our mission, what we stand for. Lastly, apply with confidence. Well, I'm not feeling confident. I'm feeling a little nervous. You've heard the expression, fake it till you make it, right? Apply with confidence. Practice. Practice, practice, practice. Have your job coach, have your instructor pretend like they're interviewing you. Pretend like they're the person on the phone talking to you and inviting you for an interview. Practice. Practice really does help. It's something I've worked on, and I could tell you that it really helps. All right, number 8, schedule informational interviews. Find out whether you're a good fit for a job by requesting informational interviews with someone working in a field that interests you. So, you're interested in the computer industry, reach out. If maybe mom or dad or a cousin has a friend in the computer industry, reach out and say, hey, I want to know everything there is about this line of work. Reach out, say, hey, do you guys have any shadowing opportunities? Shadowing opportunities are great, so that you can find out more about a field that interests you. All right. Those students who have a current job, this tip is for you. And actually, it's for those who don't even have a job. Maybe you're doing volunteer work. And that is succeed in the position that you currently are in. If you have a current job, or maybe you're volunteering at your church, or your local nonprofit, succeed in that job. That is huge in helping you propel to the next opportunity. Okay, number 10, network regularly. You've heard the expression, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And there is some truth to that. Now, it's also important what you know, right? Obviously, if you're gonna build computers, you have to, if you're applying for a top-level engineering job, well, they're gonna find out real quick if you don't know much about that. But networking is huge. And so interact with people, develop those professional contacts, get business cards. I don't know if we're still doing business cards anymore, Blake, but get their QR code, get those contacts, network. LinkedIn is a great starting place for networking with other people. Be bold. Hey, you're at a restaurant and maybe it's a restaurant that, hey, you would like to work at. Share that. Talk to the waiter or the waitress to start a conversation with people. They can be at seminars, social events, appointments. Hey, even our career fair that's coming up, right, Blake?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so make sure you take advantage of those opportunities. And then, so networking is huge. Number 11, identifying examples of your skills. Start reflecting and thinking about the skills that you possess, the gifts that you have, so that you can articulate and share your gifts with that employer. If, however, you are having a hard time thinking about, okay, what are my gifts? Reach out to an instructor, reach out to one of our transition teachers, reach out to a job coach, reach out to Blake or myself and say, hey, I want to know what my gifts are. And we have certain tests. I probably should have said the word test because that scares anyone. We have certain assessments or ways of really helping you identify your skills. Okay, so this one, kind of goes with the other one, this next tip that I discussed, and that is practicing by preparing for interviews. Like I said, you're going to know their mission statement. You're going to know your responses to common interview questions. You are researching, you're studying. You're studying just like those math tests and those English tests and those history tests out there. You're studying, except you're studying for an interview. You're studying for a job so that you can make that money, right? All right, number 13, follow up. This is a big one, following up. Okay, so you did your job search. You did all steps 1 through 11, or 1 through 12. The second to last one is following up. Don't just leaving it hanging. After maybe a week or so or a few days go by, reach out. Hey, I'm still interested. I love your company. Use it as a time for you to pick up the phone and sell yourself again. Okay? So what I used to tell students when I worked at Job Corps, sometimes the competition is so fierce and so even. And just imagine, it's like neck and neck, right? And one person calls up with the follow-up, and the other person doesn't. Whatever. Who's going to leave that lasting impression? Well, I know as someone who's hired people, I could tell you that person who follows up. And then lastly, expanding your skills. You're always learning. Learning is not hey, I'm checking into Miss Lakey's class, or I'm checking into my job coaching session. I'm just going to learn. Learning and expanding your skills is something that you're constantly doing. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have those down moments where you're going to sit back and you're going to watch a football game. Weren't those some good games this weekend, Blake?
Oh, yeah. My goodness, so good.
I know, for those of you who watch the Bills game and the Chiefs game, Bills fans, I'm sorry. Chiefs fans, congratulations. That was a nail biter. But anyways, back to expanding your skills. So you will have moments of rest, moments of time for relaxation, but always look at life as learning and expanding your skills even beyond the classroom. And so expanding those work and career readiness skills. All right. I think we gave them enough, Blake. Can you share with our listeners real quick what we saw on the top 2022? Blake and I were looking at the top 2022 job search engines. I had to be specific about that because when you say the last week, I know football comes to mind for everyone. Football, college games. So we're only looking at job search engines, Blake.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I sure can share those. And just real quick, thank you for sharing all those awesome tips. They were great. Just a lot of really good information because, it's like the job coach, or the job search, it can be intimidating, but you kind of break it down the step by step, through these tips, and it really kind of makes it a lot more manageable. You can kind of chip away at it one piece at a time. But yeah, so these top engines will kind of help with some of those tips, specifically that number 4, the job search engines, or those resources. And so sometimes using different search engines might be more beneficial for your search. How we're customizing our resume for the job we want. We also can customize the engines we use to find the job we want, especially if we're targeting a specific field. So anyways, these are the top 10 best job search websites of 2022. So for best overall, you heard Jonathan mention these tips just came from this website, which is Indeed. Indeed.com is a fantastic job search website. Obviously it is because it's the best overall. I've used this countless times before my current job, and it's amazing. They make it easier than pie to use, and to use over and over again to apply to all kinds of different jobs. The runner-up for best overall is Monster. That's another really big, great search engine. You probably see all over on ads too. I still see ads for them on TV, on YouTube videos before you go and watch the video. You know, it's like instead of clicking that skip ad, watch the ad. You see what it can offer you. The best for remote jobs for 2022 is Flex Jobs. That one's kind of cool. That's you know, I mean, especially right now more than ever, I feel like remote jobs are huge, especially in the times we've been living in. And you know, even if you just want to work remotely, we've been doing school remotely. You're like, this is kind of my thing. This is my environment. This is what I like to do. So you can customize using Flex Jobs. You can look for remote jobs, which is kind of cool. Best for experienced managers, the website Ladders. So maybe you have a lot of experience already managing, being a manager of some kind, and you want to continue that, move up the ladder. You know, that's a good website for you as well. Best for startup jobs is AngelList. Best for connecting directly with recruiters, LinkedIn. Jonathan mentioned that one before. Phenomenal resource to have. Honestly, even if you're not even using it to directly connect with recruiters, you should have a LinkedIn, because it's just, honestly, it just looks really good if you have one. Like, just hands down, you're already putting yourself, you're going at that kind of step above a lot of other people who don't have one of those. So LinkedIn, really good website. Best for up-to-date listings is they named Get Work. So, you know, we're just seeing the most recent things, the most up-to-date, everything that's popping up on the website. And then lastly, best for recent college graduates, Scouted is another website. So you just graduated college, Scouted. You go check that out. You're a recent college grad. Again, perfect for tailoring your job search to the types of jobs you want, you know, especially coming out of college more than ever. I mean, like, I'm recently out, kind of, it's getting further in the rear view mirror. It seems like quicker than I'd like to admit, but still relatively recent, you know. And so, like, I wish I would have known about something like this, you know. Obviously, I'm ultimately happy with where I landed up, but you know, great resource for recent graduates. So there you go. I'll have all of these posted, just a quick link in the description as well, so you can quickly access these websites if you need.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. So much to think about. Those are great tips that can lead to productive job searching and meaningful employment. Okay, all right, I'm super excited about our guest today. I want to give Dr. Mitch Casadas, our very own psychologist, enough time. So Blake's going to be asking the questions today. So I'm just going to hand the baton off to you, Blake and Dr. Mitch. And Blake, take us away.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan. I would first just like to thank Dr. Mitch on the behalf of our student body for all that he does for our students and their families. And for those listening who don't know you, Dr. Mitch, will you share a little bit about who you are and what it is exactly what you do for Central Valley Charter Schools?
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Blake. I really appreciate it. And honestly, believe deeply in this work. So I'm happy to be here, honestly. What I do, I am a psychologist, but I oversee what we consider Tier 3 social emotional learning interventions through the charters. So I oversee about 6 students in this cohort that will work directly with parents, students, and staff on building social emotional skills in a one-on-one way, typically. That could be overcoming feelings of being sad or nervous, or even learning a skill like learning how to make friends better, or learn how to engage in academics a little stronger. We're kind of like I would say coaches. We're more like tier 3 coaches than anything else. And so I oversee all the students doing that. These are doctoral level students from Alliant University, and they are a great bunch of group, and we are serving quite a few students and families right now.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Yeah. So I'm curious. So for those interested into maybe going into that field of psychology and maybe doing some work like you guys are doing for us, what skills do you feel are necessary to be successful?
Well, you're going to need a high tolerance of pain because you're going to be in school for a very, very long time. It takes a lot of training to really dig into what makes human beings tick. We are extremely complicated beings, and we're in an extremely complicated world, and to be able to understand all the things that come together, it takes a lot of school. There are some people that can practice at the master's level. A lot of times those are social workers and counselors and licensed marriage and family therapists. Then there are psychologists like me. And then there's psychiatrists who actually go to medical school. They're medical doctors. They do the same medical school as any MD, because they actually are an MD. And they're able to prescribe medication. So lots of school, number one, tolerance for pain. Second part, I think, is just a sense of empathy. I think that is built into most people. It's a skill you can certainly practice, but if it's something that's kind of not built into you, psychology probably isn't the field. Luckily, empathy is a human characteristic that goes across almost everybody except for sociopathic killers, which I'm sure there's not a lot out there of you. But if you love your family, you love your friends, that's a good start. So having that sense of empathy and understanding what maybe someone's going through and how to deal with that, but at least how to understand it. I think those are really, really the prerequisite skills for a stone cold psychologist. But you don't have to be a psychologist to help people out. Basic caring about people and giving them a hand and being a good listener, you don't need a degree for that. So if you want to do professionally, though, it's a lot of schooling, probably a good 7 years once you graduate high school.
Amazing. So kind of speaking of that, what is kind of the full extent of the education that's needed? And do you mind sharing a little bit about your own educational background?
Oh, yes. I will share my torture with you. No problem. Yeah, you typically go through college. I did my undergraduate training here at Fresno State, and then you usually go on to grad school, master's, doctorate. So I went to the University of Wisconsin for that training. I came out with a couple masters and the doctorate, and then some certificates. I was real efficient. I wanted to take advantage of the education. So that's been my training. And then you go on to an internship site, and then what they call a postdoc, which is in another year, postdoctorate. And then you're eligible to take your license from the Board of Psychology. And once you have done all of that, you can go out and professionally practice. And I will say, at being a student, for all you students out there, hang in there. Don't worry, there's light at the end of the tunnel. It not only does it end, but actually really does help you. This training really does help you see the world in another way and help you be more effective in it. But I'm glad that it takes that much training to work with people psychologically, because it really is sophisticated and difficult to do, and you can do harm if you don't do it right. So I'm very happy that it takes a lot of gates to jump over. It took a lot of work to jump over them, but I think it's a good thing that you have to do a lot. You really want to be sure of that. And for school age kind of kids and students, wow, this is really where all the good work is at. I really enjoy working with you here, because in addition to my work here, I also work in a prison where some people have made mistakes, and it's a very tough environment. And a lot of the things we can do to help them is to address some of the issues they were going through when they were your age, right here, in school age, and especially early school. That is the best way we can help them. So this is a fantastic, psychology applied to schools is such a great fit. So happy to be here. And if you like this kind of work, you can feel free to reach out to me anytime. I'll be happy to talk to you about it or give you more information anytime you'd like.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And kind of to backpedal a little bit. Back when you were explaining to us what you do here for the school, you mentioned that you have students or a team that works with us. So I was wondering who is on that team that supports our students here in school.
Yeah, we have a group of about 6 or so graduate students from Alliant University. They're all doctoral students in clinical psychology. They are typically in their 3rd or 4th year, and they will provide individual help for social emotional learning. Even though they're not kind of technically doing therapy, they're really doing kind of coaching and training here with the charters, but they definitely are well trained. They have all had undergraduate degrees, master's degrees, and now are going to get doctorates, and they're almost through. Typically it's a 5-year program with an internship, so they're in their 3rd year or 4th year of that. So they are as close to psychologists as we can get, and they all have a desire to work with children and families, and so we handpick them. And we have students, really doing great work. I meet with them every single week, and we talk about cases and how to move forward. And it is a joy to work with them.
That's incredible. No, and I know our students and our families really appreciate all of the help that you and your team have given to our schools. So thank you so much for sharing some of your background and kind of an introduction to everything that you and your team do. Today, a lot of our big topic is just kind of dealing with it all. And as I'm sure you know, there are a lot of students that manage, schoolwork, home life, extracurricular activities, relationships, and so much more now, especially these days. Could you share a little bit with maybe some healthy tips for managing it all?
Yes, I think the first one, there's 2 things I would highlight: balance and perspective. I think those are the 2 things that will carry us through. So let's talk about perspective first, actually. The first thing to really consider is that this idea of having to juggle things is not going to go away. This would be no different than needing to walk. This is something that human beings kind of have to do, and all animals have to do. They have to eat, they have to protect their place, they have some fun. This balancing act is something that we will continue to have to do. So perspective number 1, and also to know that sometimes the feelings can feel a lot bigger than the problems are. If you go way back to the caveman days, they'd wake up in the morning not wondering what cereal they were going to eat, but they were trying not to be eaten. That was their day. So some perspective on, hey, even though we might feel like things are really crunching in on us, if you think about some other times and other people and even other places in the world, we have it decently well. So it's not that we shouldn't feel anxious, but we have, our perspective should give us some insight that we probably have it a lot better than we do, even though our feelings can get triggered as if a lion was chasing us, but really it's Captain Crunch or Cocoa Puffs. It's really, the real situation's small, but the feeling can match. So some perspective is really, really important. One of the things I like to do if you get into those modes is to really think about some of the more stressful things other people have been through. And I think about war veterans and people that have been through combat situations that are extremely scary, real life and death, and on chronically for months at a time, sometimes years at a time. And I will think to myself, okay, where am I compared to that right now? And all of a sudden, it really drops down. It's not that it goes to 0, but I start thinking, okay, not only this isn't as big as I'm thinking, I can handle this. This is not a problem. So perspective is really important. Balance, that is a killer concept. Balance is in everything, right? Hot, cold, light, dark. It's every part of the material world we're in. It's part of everything. So including our own individual daily life, balance needs to be there. What I love about balance is it's something that can be programmed for the most part. You can take out a sheet of paper and decide, here's when I'm going to do my hard stuff, here's when I'm going to do my easy stuff, and make sure you have fun built in there, and that it's probably not life and death situations you're dealing with. So hey, write it out and schedule out your day and put the balance on paper. I think those 2 things, although very simple, are extremely, extremely powerful. And as a psychologist, when I deal with people who are not doing so well, it's typically those two levers I'm dealing with. Put a better balance in, let's get the perspective going, and oftentimes that's enough to get them to see, oh, okay, it's not as bad as I thought. There are situations that are bad, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you're gonna get thrown out of balance, but in those situations, just like with the COVID piece here, they will pass. Situations will pass, and you will be able to get through. So balance and perspective, to me, are the ideal little anchors.
I love it. Thank you so much. And on top of kind of all these things, mentioned, students are trying to manage balance and all these things throughout a pandemic right now. And so I was just wondering a couple things, like how does COVID kind of affect, getting it, not getting it? How does that affect our mental health? And how can I kind of cope with effects of things like being quarantined from that as well?
These are great questions and hot topics of the time. It is totally normal to feel nervous about COVID. And there's a few reasons. One, we are truly a group creature. We're not like a great white shark who's out on your own. We work as a group. We watch sports teams. We're watching the group in action. So when we see that our group members and there actually really is a threat out there, are nervous about it, that will indeed increase our own nervousness. So I will right now, here and there, take that perspective idea and plug it in. First, we have been through panic before, in 1918, I believe, the Spanish flu. But over time, human beings have really survived very dire times. And in fact, way back, all life on Earth was almost extinct for a second. I mean, it was, years away from no life on Earth. So I would say that these kinds of stressors have been around us a very long time. And because they've been around a long time, we have the ability to deal with them. But it's totally normal to feel stressed out about it. So here's where the perspective comes in. For kids and youth, the reality is it feels scary. But the numbers, the actual truth on the ground is something along the lines that kids and youth have a lot lower risk. So those are the real facts. So getting perspective on, hey, I think I'm going to get COVID tomorrow. Well, kids and adolescents aren't getting this, and if at a very high rate, and if they are, they tend to have less severe symptoms. So that's one thing to think about. The second thing is what can you do about that fear? Yes, it's a real threat out there. That's true. But you can wash your hands, you can stay indoors, you can limit your contact with other people, etc. You have some control over it. But Blake, I think one of the things you brought out that's a tougher one is the isolation. Because indeed, doing all those things kind of gets you away from people. And because human beings are essentially they're a group type creature, being isolated is not typically, we're not meant for that. So it can kind of weigh on us generally. I see this in the prison all the time. They'll have guys that are in segregated housing for long periods of time, all day long, and it really takes a toll. So I'd say 100 years ago, this would be difficult because, there's no one really out there to socialize it with if you're inside by yourself. However, now with social media and these platforms here, look at us right now, we're all individually talking and isolated, but yet there's still some social interaction here. So take advantage of that and realize to expect, hey, yeah, if I'm by myself for long periods of time, I'm probably gonna get cabin fever and wanna talk to people, but also it's going to pass. At some point, this pandemic will see itself through. So just realize it's temporary in nature, and that people have been in winter caves for months at a time to survive the winter, and there's a spring, and they come out, and it's amazing. So just have faith in that we will come out of this, and use this social media as a way to interact as much as you can.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much. I feel like we answered a lot of these questions about, feeling anxious, being scared, what we can do about that. So thank you so much for sharing ways we can cope with that. kind of weaning off of COVID then, or, you know, even if our students are dealing with it, or among all these other issues that we might be experiencing as a student, what tools, supports, and resources do I have access to as a student?
Great question. I'll say there are 3 levels of support that you can tap into very, very easily. We consider the first level tier 1. This would be maintaining your friendships, maintaining your hygiene, maintaining good nutrition, getting exercise, just kind of self-care. I think at the tier 1 level and social contact, that's probably the most that you will need. You'll stay healthy in those lights. Your body and mind is biased towards health, so that will help it. On the tier 2 level of where, okay, this anxiety is getting a little bit heavier for me, or I'm feeling sad more days than not, you certainly can reach out to teachers and parents, and they will connect you with us, where we can speak to you one time, a few times, many times, to just get an idea how it's going, and maybe set up a little bit more elaborate plan for your exercise, your nutrition, your social contact. But that will be with support. We will help you with that. Then at that 3rd level, that's kind of where our services really kick in for more longer periods of time. And for if you're going through a true crisis, I wanted to share one really good resource, and I can put it in the chat here for you, but it's the California Coalition for Youth. And they have a crisis hotline 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and a fantastic website with lots of resources. So Google is a great friend across all those tiers. But if you needed help from us, just talk to your parents and teachers, and they will get us to you. So you have support every which way. Feel free to use it. These are normal things to go through. I'll tell you really quickly, a lot of college age kids will use these resources. Some of them are trying to get into really, really difficult schools like Harvard, Stanford, things like that. And they go through incredible anxiety and angst, even though they're going towards something good. They experience these kind of high level of anxiety. So nothing has to be wrong with you to seek help. You know, some things in life are just difficult, and hey, getting a coach in that, help you through it is a very good thing. So don't think by any means by feeling like you need to reach out means like there's anything wrong with you. In fact, it's the absolute opposite. Anytime you want a better skill, you seek a coach, and they get you through it. And that's really, really what this is.
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, I know even when I was in college, you know, I made sure that I was using the resources available for me to do stuff like that, and it helps. The help is tremendous, and it makes a real difference. But for our students, when is it appropriate then, would you say, for one to seek out help from a trained professional like yourself or from our team?
Yeah, for those who are really interested in the tier 3 social emotional learning services, and we obviously will refer out to mental health if you need something beyond that. Really what it boils down to is when these feelings, assuming that's what it is, worry or sadness tends to be what we'll see at this age, or these ages. When that starts to really interfere with your life, okay, so when you don't want to go out at all, talk to anybody, you don't feel like eating anything, you don't feel like you can't really sleep very well, or you're oversleeping, either one of the two, you go into these extremes for a few weeks at a time, that's kind of a signal. So the way it works in outside of the charters in the mental health world, they look at symptoms. So, hey, I'm seeing things, I'm hearing things, or I am very, very sad, very, very nervous. And they look to see how that's impacting somebody's life. Like, I can't get along with anybody more. I don't go to work. I don't go to school. I do nothing. It's when the symptoms affect your actual daily functioning. That's the time to really say, you know what? I need a hand. Before that time is a good time just to ask other people, hey, do you notice anything different with me? You know, usually your friends will come to you, hey, I haven't seen you in forever, or, you know, you seem different, you know, they'll let you know. But, you know, ask them, hey, do you notice anything? And then, so when it really starts to affect your life, so when you just, it's when you really have a hard time functioning on a daily basis, that's the time to really reach out. And if that's a process, usually someone doesn't get to that overnight. Usually it is a little bit at a time, and all of a sudden they're at that spot where hey, you know, everybody keeps telling me I need help, or I really feel like I need some help. That's the time. But earlier the better. Don't let it get to that. You know, a lot of times our minds will play tricks on us where we feel like it's a catastrophe. Oh my gosh, he or she broke up with me, or oh no, you know, I'm struggling on that test a little bit. My whole life's ruined. You know, we can kind of get to that. So the whole life is ruined is what will usually require someone to come. But oftentimes that's not really true. And that before reaching out for higher services, these lower ones are good. So that is a really good question. But when it starts messing up your everyday life for a few weeks at a time, that's usually the signal.
Awesome. So that's kind of going into our last question then. So we're at that point. Perhaps what is that next step for someone who's feeling at that point, who's feeling overwhelmed and that they want to speak to someone? Is there a contact number, email? What's our next step here?
Yes. The charters are developing an email right now for this very thing. We also have crisis contacts that we're able to deliver, but asking your teacher or parent is the quickest and best way to do that. That will find its way up the channels. I want to let everybody know it's all confidential. We cannot share anything you talk to us with unless you tell us you're going to hurt yourself, you're going to hurt somebody else, or your behavior is so erratic that you're running out in the middle of the street and going to get hit by a car. Besides those things, it's all confidential. And a lot of times just one or two contacts is enough. We will then take it to decide, hey, we need to see you more often, or hey, that was a great little check-in, and you know, let's help you with resources. Check back in a month. So teachers and parents are the key at this point for the referral.
Wow. Thank you so much, Blake. Our students asked some great questions. And I also want to thank you, Dr. Mitch, for sharing a little bit about your background and your journey, and then giving us some tips on how we can really be successful and thrive dealing with it all. I know our students will really take advantage of these awesome resources. So again, want to thank everyone for joining us today. And remember, you can always reach out to us if you'd like to be involved in our podcast. Also, do not hesitate to reach out to your teacher, to a support staff member, if you feel like, hey, I really need some of these supports that Dr. Mitch shared today. So again, thank you all for allowing us to be a part of your village. We, as a school community, are here to help. And that concludes your transition podcast today. We will catch you all on the next one.